The sudden blow to my face had me reeling backwards as his forehead made contact with the bridge of my nose, under enough force to crack it. I tumbled over into a heap, collapsing the telephone table as I went. "You will fucking well pay for that too, Weasel," Harry's older brother shouted as blood gushed from my nose onto their mother's living room carpet. I scrabbled to my feet, eyes blurred and streaming. He was back up in my face again, chest pushed out. This fellow was twice my age, well over 6 foot tall, and I was on his turf. I shouted my mate who had come to the party with me. He came in from the kitchen. Seeing this huge thug towering over me and blood all over the place, he lunged at him, but Harry, protecting his brother from the incoming blow, took it instead. Bonfire Night, 1991. There were two parties that night. I've been spending a fair few weekend evenings over the summer and autumn at a biker's pub in the next town. My new friend, whom I met at Paul's scrapyard back in the spring, went there quite a bit too, and was also mates with some guys from a band that sometimes played there. He convinced me to meet him in the pub one Friday night. It had been such a great evening I continued to attend most weeks. His sister and her mates, who were into metal or gothic rock, also went, and I started seeing her a fair bit too. That evening, though, we had already been to one bonfire party, two up on his Yamaha DT80MX. It wasn't a great event, held at his ex-girlfriend's parents'. He had been invited out of politeness, and I hadn't even been invited at all. We showed up, mingled a little, were made as welcome as dysentery, then made our excuses and left after half an hour. I have been spending less and less time, thankfully, on the estate over the last year, but I had been invited to my old mate Harry's that night for a bit of a get together, his mother being away. In truth, I wasn't that keen to go. His older brother was back living locally, and he always seemed to have an aggressive attitude towards me from day one. Lord ever knew why, as I couldn't have had more than half a dozen conversations with him in all the time I had known him. I suggested we called in, seeing as the first event had been such a damp squib. We got in through the door, greeting various usual suspects from the estate. My mate went into the kitchen for a drink, and I asked Harry if I might use the phone to ring home, just to say where I was. I even thanked him and put 50p in his hand for its use. His brother came into the room, and I nodded to him as I lifted the receiver to make the call. "Put that fucking phone down, it's not yours," he snarled across the room. I tried to make light of it, putting my thumb up and saying, "It's okay, I've asked Harry and paid for the call." He ignored what I said, coming over to me and ripping the handset out of my hand. "What's the matter with you, mate?" I shouted. This was obviously the green light he had been waiting ages to get. My mate's intervention distracted my attacker enough for me to get clear of him, edging towards the front door so we could both make an exit. I fumbled with the key to get it open, but he was on me again. I managed to get the door ajar, and to my amazement, my parents were standing outside. By not ringing to say where I was, and Mum knowing of Harry's party that night, meant they must have put two and two together and popped round to see if I was there. Dad, on seeing me staggering out covered in blood, launched himself at Harry's brother, landing a right hook to his eye, but this fellow was much bigger than my dad, grabbing him and they fell wrestling to the ground. My friend trying to help, but again Harry fighting him back. I went to kick my attacker in the face as he had Dad down, but his enormous girlfriend sort of belly barged me as I drew my leg back, knocking me over onto the coffee table and scattering the bowls and nibbles everywhere. My mother got in between everyone, ordering me, Dad, and my pal outside, but having a few choice words with Harry, his brother telling her to just get the fuck out of his house. I got outside and kicked the wing in on his dogshit brown Allegro estate, parked on the drive before shuffling home to try and stop the blood pouring out of my face. On arriving home, Mum rang the law to report the assault on me, then patched me up. The police duly arrived a bit later on. After the copper had taken our statements and been round to take theirs, he explained that it was all pretty pointless, as it was going to be just our word against theirs, thanking Mum for the tea and then leaving. My mate was furious. He got on his little Yamaha and disappeared for an hour. Arriving back with a Triumph Dolomite full of geezers we both knew from the bikers' pub. They went round to Harry's, demanding his hard man brother come out and fight someone his own age and size. He did not appear, so they sat outside in the car waiting until the same copper moved them on, having been called again, but this time by the huge girlfriend with allegations of harassment. It was pretty much a stalemate, With it being now well after midnight, the other people from the party had all made their way home. My friend kept down on our sofa for the night, and in the morning we walked up the estate, heading towards town. Harry and his brother's girlfriend challenged us, wanted to know why had we gotten the fellas from the pub involved. I pointed out I was happy to fight my own battles, but on fair terms. I didn't think a 30-year-old bloke of 16 stone versus a 15-year-old weighing 7 stone was just much of a match, no matter how you looked at it, and my new friends from the pub had all agreed. Nothing ever came of the regrettable incident, save that it was to be the last of any bullying I ever got from the people on that estate. Word had gotten round I was now mixing with some far more unpleasant people than them, it seemed. Hello, if you enjoyed this story and would like to hear more from my book, And Your Point Is, then please subscribe to my channel. It really means a lot. Take care.